Hey folks, welcome to episode 2 of this Let's Play of Shadow Empire. I'm Ben from eXplorminate. In our first episode, we went through the planet generation, and we got as far as just seeing where our initial zone was located. So here we are. This is our zone, Richter Snow. Now, you'll notice we've got a mountain range just to the north. Each one of these hexes has a different tile value that affects everything from your movement to defense, how your logistics will travel through it. Again, we'll go over each of those as we come across them. But this looks like quite a nice defensible situation, at least as far as the north and the northwest is concerned. We've got some ruins in our initial starting zone. Our zone is bordered by these dotted white lines here, and the city itself is located on this tile. There are also ruins in this tile at Richter Snow. What we can do is, if we click on our assets tab, we can filter just by this is just the assets that we have. So at the moment, all we've got here is our high command. We can click on this and it gives you some information about it. This is just a high command bunker. This is something that starts out with the game. It can only exist in the planet, in the capital zone, and it can produce PP being political points, which are used as a currency in order to deal with the various elements of your government and certain strategic decisions that you're going to make in the game. I'll very quickly go over the interface. This is fate points. This is used to play certain fate stratagems. I'll come across those later. We've got the political points here. We've got cash. These are credits. The credits are used to pay your salaries of your workers and your advisors, your armies. They're also used to buy things in the trade screen. There are traders that are modeled in this game, and you can buy and sell things that they have to sale. What they have for sale will change depending on what's going on in the rest of the simulation. It looks quite simple. It looks literally like you just buy and sell things and the prices change, but actually, it really depends on what's going on in the rest of the game. This seems to be a common theme in Shadow Empire, that there's quite a detailed simulation going on under the surface. I touched on this before, but this is great because it looks to me like you can actually manipulate that economy to some extent. How much you can use that to lever an advantage over your AI opponents, I'm not quite sure yet. However, it's not just a bunch of numbers that are changing. That is clear. So yeah, that's a common theme that runs through this game. There's lots of hidden complexity in it. You don't really need to get involved with until you want to. Let's carry on. This is the first SHQ. This is our strategic HQ, and you can build. The more cities and zones that you get, the more strategic HQs you can actually run. At the moment, we just have this one. So let's just we can bring our units back, and this is our strategic HQ counter here, and it's we've got a guy called Pax John Dark, and now he is the commander of the first strategic HQ. The strategic HQ is quite unique. Well, you can have more of them later on, and they scale up. The amount that you can have is to do with how many zones that you own. At the start, you only get one, but basically, this is important. The strategic HQ deals with lots of your logistics that go through to the units that are subordinate to it, and I think it also deals with the logistics that are going on in the zones that they're connected to. Let's just have a look at this gentleman here, Pax John Dark, commander of the first HQ. Now he's a 25-year-old male, and then there's a bunch of stats down here. These are all. It's quite a deep simulation again, and there's a sort of an RPG element to the game too. He's got personality traits here, some of which are kind of for flavor, but I think they all have some effect on the game. Particularly of note are ambition and egoism. Ambition. The more ambitious the characters are, the more likely they are going to react badly, especially, and egotism too. They will react badly if you start stopping them from doing the things that they want, right? And all of these characters in this game, they're your advisors. They all have things that they like and they don't like. So you have to kind of keep them sweet. Now, the things that they like and they don't like are the politics, your society, and your psychology. Each of these 3 sections of your society are built, are split into 3 potential groups, or 3 groups that all interact. We've got autocracy, meritocracy, and democracy. Now, the way that these work is, as you raise one, after a certain point, which I think is 50 points, it will start to affect points that are put into the others. And the way that you affect these is by decisions that you make each turn. You get these decisions that come up, and we'll have a look at our decisions for the start of the game shortly. So these in the politics section, for example, let's say that we get autocracy up to level 50. What this does is it gives us a bonus, a regime feat they're called submission, which enables us to suppress unrest, a stratagem called pillage, and a stratagem called assassinate leader. So they give your faction extra things that you can do, or bonuses in certain areas. So you want to be kind of focusing on these, and the higher up you go, the better the bonuses are, and the more effective they are for a certain job. So ideally, let's say we wanted to go fully on down the authoritarian route so that we could gain total power, which is the feats that you gain at autocracy level 90. Now, we can actually see in the management screen where all these feats are. It's in proficiencies here. So here's autocracy. We're currently at 48, and this gives us access to strength of the will. This is the first regime feat. Now, much like in Master of Orion, the way that this works is that once you hit the threshold, you then get a percentage chance each turn for you to unlock it. So just hitting that won't actually unlock it itself. It forces you to have to maintain this level of autocracy or democracy or meritocracy or whichever of these society or cultural things that you're going for, right? So you can't just kind of hit there and then immediately boost another one up to get something in a rival category. Although there is some kind of decay mechanism. So let's say I go as far as martial law, and then I want to go into democracy. What will happen is I won't lose martial law until the autocracy is sank back down below a certain level, and I think it might be below 30, but I'm not certain about that. So it's a really cool system, and it mimics government it models government and society and psychology all in this convenient little system, and changes to one affects the others. It's so great. It's just really, really interesting. It's taken a really complex idea, something that other 4X games that try to kind of model in different ways, and they don't always succeed, in all honesty. Okay, finally we've got our militia rating. Now, the militia are formed from the public sector. I think it's public, is that right? I often get confused the difference between a public and private in this game, so let me just double check these. Okay, so the public is the stuff that we can build, and the private is the private sector. So this is an economy that's run by the civilians, and much like Distant Worlds universe, there's a civilian economy that goes in this game, and you really want to be nurturing this because you're taxing these guys in order to make money, and your credits go into your soldiers, your leaders, that kind of thing. So, but you don't have any direct control over what they build. However, all the things that they build do have the benefits for your society. The way rather than just having a number that increases for population growth, the way population growth works in this game is really it's quite detailed. There's quite a detailed model behind it, and it's actually to do with things like the quality of life, the health, the education level, various things, and the civilian sector will build these buildings when they've got enough money, and these will gradually improve the overall quality of life, which will improve the happiness, which will attract more people in from these surrounding territories into our cities. So we really want to nurture the private sector as much as possible. Things that we build in the public sector, they want to be kind of counter, they want to be complementary to the things that are going on. So the other thing that's worth looking at early on is, this is the report screen, and please do not be too intimidated. There are a lot of reports. However, they are by no means necessary to go through all of them all the time, every turn. The most important ones are this Empire dashboard and probably the personnel overview, because this is where you can see all the people who work for you, all your advisors and governors, your secretary, the directors of all the councils that you'll develop. There's a cabinet overview, which is the cabinet of your government. At the moment, we've only got 3, but we will get more, and yeah, more of that to come. There are also factions within your government, so even though you are a dictator of sorts, there are varying stages of a government that's formed underneath you, and that will change depending on how you develop your faction in this area. This is the grand strategy element of this game, and it's pretty complex, and it's much more complex than the 9 out of 10 4X games that you'll play. And it's really great fun. So yeah, we got factions, a little bit like in Stellaris. You have to kind of keep these factions busy. You have to keep them happy, and each one wants something different. So for example, we've got the Reformist Army, the RA, and the Justice Knights, the JK. And each one has their share of the vote. So currently the Reformist Army are the major they're the ruling party. They had 80% of the vote. There's 2 members. Their happiness out of 100 is listed here, so this is how happy they are with me. And this is the things that they like. They like Fist. Now, Fist is a psychological profile, and they like Autocracy, and Autocracy is a political profile. So these guys are kind of like the strong arm, sort of authoritarian types. JK are Meritocracy. So the Justice Knights, they like Meritocracy. So there will be some play between these 2 factions, and you'll see as we start answering the decisions that come up, they will come and situations will happen. We'll have to respond to those situations in certain ways, and each response will strengthen or weaken one of these factions, and they'll also change how each of these advisors think about us. This is a really interesting kind of political simulation that's running behind everything else, behind all the military and the 4X and the economic stuff, and it really adds a lot of flavors to this game, and it makes it quite difficult too. It's funny, I was just some of the decisions that come up can be quite harrowing, and they sometimes it can be like, oh man, like this is a real problem. With that in mind, let's take a look at the first decisions that come up. So this is an example of what happens. The first few turns, there will be some decisions that seem to be scripted for the first couple of turns of the game. After that, they will develop as the game develops in various ways. So first, we've got the Ascension Speech. I'm not going to read all of these out all the time because it will get quite tiring and I will lose my voice. So, but some of the important ones I'll read. So, the buzz on the street is that you're about to address the nation. For most of the people and leaders of eXplormination, you are still an unknown. They need to know what you plan to do with your newly gained power. The question on everyone's lips is, where do your sympathies lie? So, which political profile will you champion in your speech? Now, we need to decide. This is a politics-based decision. So we initially went for autocracy, so it makes sense to boost autocracy further. However, each of these decisions will also please somebody else. So you'll see here, we've got S. Jackson. If you click on S. Jackson, it's Simba Jackson, who is the director of our Supreme Command Council. This is an important person. The Supreme Command Council is responsible for generating a lot of our strategic decisions and the stratagems that we get, and generating our political points too. So this is kind of like the top level of government. Now we want to keep this person happy. This person's really important, but we also need to balance that out with what we want, right? So autocracy is already the strongest form of politics that we're going for. It would be good to get this up further. So if we just go into this screen again, if we get to 50 points here, we'll get submission. Now submission gives us access to certain things like being able to assassinate leaders, pillage zones, suppress unrest. Suppress unrest is really, really useful, so this might be worth going for at the start. Alternatively, we could boost either meritocracy or democracy. Boosting democracy might be helpful because this will help with recruiting a leader from one of the communities within your borders. So sometimes you need to be able to get more leaders to run parts of your government for you. That might be helpful. Meritocracy You need the organization. Recruit a young leader that is capable. So here you can start recruiting more leaders. So both of these were going to be useful for helping build the size of our government. Now, normally I go straight down autocracy because I'm King Benjamin and this is what I do. But I'm starting to realize now that some of these others are really important. And by the way, once we get more than 50 points in one of these, you see these arrows here, one points to another. What will happen is, let's say we had 50 points in merit, or 55 points in meritocracy. Once we get over 50 points with this one, it gains in autocracy will reduce points in meritocracy, and there'll also be some reduction in this as well, as these two kind of conflicting ideas start to struggle. Likewise, meritocracy affects democracy, and democracy affects autocracy. It makes sense if you think about it. Won't go through the others, but they work in the same way. So at the start, I'm going to go for meritocracy. I want to get that bonus that enables us to get those leaders. So you've given your speech. You've made it clear that your sympathies lie with your workers and bureaucrats. Your vision of promotion based on capability redoubled their enthusiasm. So we get this bonus. We've got 2 more options to make. The next one is it's asking us which council we want to create. So this is a choice that you want to make at the start of the game. In the games that I've played so far, and from some of the other guys that I've been watching online, it seems to be that the Economic Council is the one that you want to go for first. The reason for this is the Economic Council and the Military Research Council are both involved in research. There are 3 branches of research. There's 3 councils that affect research and technology: Economic Council, Military Research Council, and the Applied Science Council. And all of the others do research in various areas, but they unlock certain things. But these are unlocking of technologies. Applied Science Council will leave till later. We want to go with our Economic Council. The reason being, and that costs 4 political points, because all these decisions cost political points. So we need to make sure that we've got political points. That's really important. So yeah, we want the Economic Council because the Economic Council will allow us to start researching technologies. Go to the tech tree. This is the tech tree, and you'll see that these are the techs that we've got already. This is the early tech. We have all these already. The basic tech are the first bunch of technologies that we get to start researching in, and you'll see the vast majority of them are in EC, which stands for the Economic Council, and MI stands for the Military Council. So we want power, because power is going to give us energy to grow food and to power the devices that drill for the ice that we get our water from. So really we want to get power plant or solar energy as early as possible, and the only way we can do that is by getting the Economic Council. So let me just close this. So that's why we chose that one. The next we'll go for the Military Council. Now this is an example of the sort of decision you'll be asked to make in the course of every turn. Most turns you'll get some decisions, sometimes more than others. Military advisors requested. So the President of Jura Republic has requested us to supply him with a few dozen of military advisors. They want to increase their military enforcement and esprit de corps. They offer to pay 480 credits in exchange for sharing our knowledge of how to instill military enforcement. This is an opportunity for us to gain better relations with one of our neighbours. Now, whether we want better relations with our neighbours is a question. Let's first find out where these people are. So as you can see, you might be able to see these little white arrows here. These are separating different factions. So here, if we click, you'll be able to see it in this tab. It will tell you which territory owns these. So immediately we're actually surrounded by minor regimes. That's not always the case. Sometimes you've just got kind of unoccupied wasteland that's just occupied with those subway punk guys that I was talking about before. You know, the Mad Max dudes tearing around on their souped up motorbikes, eating centipedes. So here we have the Pelora territory, we've got the Jura Republic, and the Odessa Federation. So immediately, if we want to expand, we're going to start upsetting people. So what this is, the Jura Republic have given us the opportunity to make relationships with them better, which would also increase our autocracy, which is good. If we say no, we'll lose autocracy points. Now, I'm going to go... I don't want any friends at this point in the game. We really need to move in a direction to secure our immediate areas. We don't want anybody around us. So with that in mind, I'm going to say yes to get the autocracy, but then I'm going to invade their land anyway, because that's the kind of guy I am, right? So let's say yes. Okay, it's good for our relations. It's increased our relations with Jura Republic. Now, if you declare war on somebody who you've got good relations with in this game, it affects your government and your advisors and your population, your workers, everything. They hate it. They don't see it as a good thing. So it's really important to be able to reduce your relations with the people you want to go war with first. However, with these minor factions, I don't think it matters so much. The first thing we want to do then is we need to expand our borders. And where do we go? Well, it makes sense to follow the roads because we get a movement bonus. If you see down in this corner, currently where I'm hovering, it says movement mode out of range, but you'll see in that area, wherever we move gives us a different amount of AP, because every unit can move a certain amount of action points, and that's modified by terrain. So if we were to move here, look, it would be 25 because we're moving into rocky plains. Here it's 35. I'm not quite sure why it's different. Anyway, we'll have a look at that later. So we're going to move down in this direction. We'll follow the road out. We're expanding our borders as we go, and we want to take as much territory as possible at the start. I'm going to move one. Just have a look what we've actually got here. If we click on this tab, we can see our military units, and we can select them here. So we've got a fairly large militia unit of a kind of regiment size. Then we've got a battalion-sized unit. This is formed up of different troops, right? So we'll just use this as an example. In this large militia unit we've got here, we've got 600 rifle militia, 100 RPG militia. We've got 100 militia bikers, which are great for recon. We've got irregular trucks, so this is kind of 90 irregular trucks. So these guys are quite fast because they're motorized. We've got some artillery and some buggies, which are, again, buggies are they're like an early tank. They're like a very light tank, with also some scouting ability. And go into this screen here and you can have a look at exactly what they are. Militia buggy, an improvised armored car, blah blah blah. It gives us the hit points against certain things, infantry and non-infantry. Here we have the hard attack, hard defense. We've got soft attack, soft defense. This is the attacks per combat round, how much ammo it uses when it's in offensive or defensive combat, how much fuel it uses, how much food it takes, its weight, which becomes important when we start using logistics. You can actually use your road system and rail systems to strategically transport your units around, and your weight comes into how much weight it costs is important there. It's got a recon value and how it moves. So this will affect different types of hex that you can move into. There's a quality, action points. This is the current status of this militia buggy unit. It tells you how many action points they've got, their readiness, morale, experience, and how entrenched they are. Okay, so now you see how the units are kind of made up. What we want to do is start sending these faster units out. So because these what are they called? The Jura Federation, was it? Yeah, Jura Republic. Because we've kind of said, okay, we're going to be your friends, but we're actually not. I want to go and take as much of their land as quickly as possible as I can. Now, I'm going to quickly turn on the supply view, so you can see how it's everything's lit up in green. These are the squares that we've got supply to. If I hit L, we can actually see where our logistics points are. I'll explain more about supply and logistics as we come to them more, but just know for now that if we're sat in a green square, this means that we're currently able to get we should be able to fully restock. When we start going into yellow and red and blue, then there's going to be less supply. So you can't just charge out from your hometown and just go off in one direction and never come back. You will run out of food, ammo, and fuel, and all of those things will stop these working. Okay, let's just explore a little bit more. This is that good old 4x stuff, right? the explore side. So we're going to take this little town. This here, if we go to the assets, this contains 57,500 free folk, and it's called, a place called Redon. Let's just turn the town names on. There we go. It's called Redon. So we've got this now. This doesn't mean that these are our people. It just means that they will eventually reinforce our city. Once the happiness levels of our city go up to a certain point, they will start to trickle in because they hear, that place sounds great. They've got real beds and they've got walls around there, and they don't have to eat centipedes. They've got caviar, man. So they'll start migrating into your cities, providing that you keep your cities happy, especially if there are job opportunities, this kind of thing. So we want to get as many of these as possible, and some of them give other bonuses too. Okay, we've got one more militia unit, so I'm going to bring it out in. I'm going to go and march them into the mountains. Now you'll see that we can't actually go much further, and you'll see that this is a blue, kind of a bluish colour square. This means that there's very little supply getting to this square from here. The reason being is because this is high mountains, and for any of your units to enter here, they're going to take a big hit to their action points, including the logistics, because the trucks that supply all your troops, they also have to go through. They're also affected by terrain, so this stops you just marching through endless mountain ranges with nary a care for food and that kind of thing. So we can't actually go any further than this, but I have actually pushed our borders back, so I've got this other free folk town, which is what I wanted. It's 12,000 free folk there. Okay, movement wise, that's all we can do this turn. I'm going to have a quick look at my personnel before we roll the turn on, because it's interesting just to have a look at who's in our cabinet. So we've got a secretary, and the secretary, it's the secretary you talk to who administrates the other leaders in your group. So you talk to them. If we call him, for example, we get the option to change our national budget. We can change the salaries, which means we can alter the pay of all our leaders. That will be useful when we want to start manipulating how they feel about us. I just want to have a quick look at Cassandra Kirkland. He looks quite loyal. Good relations so far. He's fairly intelligent. This cap is capacity class. Goes from 1 to 5. The higher it is, the better. So people with a cap class of like 3, 4, 5, you really want to hang on to them and not upset them too much. So you can also look at what they like, so you have a fair idea of who they're going to, what decisions you can make if you want to keep them sweet. So this guy looks okay for this job. The suitability is for their job that they're currently in is under here. So for example, this is our strategic HQ commander, and we've got a suitability of 34, which is not that great, but it's not terrible either. So he's okay for this particular job. He's good at working in high command. Council directors, the Supreme Director of Supreme Command Council, Simba Jackson, only suitability rating of 11. They will level up as they do their job, but this person's is a level 1, so they're not really that great. You don't really want to go chopping and changing these guys too early on. The reason being because it will, every time you move them from a job, if it's a job that if you're moving them from one good job to a slightly less good job, they're going to get really upset with you. So you have to be really careful about how you move people around if you want to leverage certain bonuses for your faction. Okay, I'm going to roll the turn on, and then we're going to end the episode there, and I'll see you next time. So I'll end it before we roll the turn on, and then we can see what happens next time round. Okay guys, thank you very much. See you later.